In today's video, we're gonna be breaking down one of the hardest products that I ever had to bring to market. This product is 16 years in the making, and it's about to revolutionize woodworking and CNC forever. Behind me is 2,000 pounds of future inlay cutting boards. You're gonna wanna watch this. It all started right here in my old wood shop in my parents' horse barn. And like many of you, when I got my first CNC, it set right here, and I got it to only do inlaid cutting boards. And I wanted to make them ingrained because they're the highest quality. But what I quickly learned is I had to have a drum sander. So I started with a jet 16 to 32 inch open-ended drum sander and eventually upgraded to this, got the planer, and got all this equipment. And it cost over $3,000 just to start producing these inlaid templates and these ingrained cutting boards. And through all that trial and error, I had so much to learn. Now fast forward 10 years, and now I've grown my business to this large industrial shop. We have all these industrial CNCs, wide belt sander, all this cool stuff. But that passion for inlaid cutting boards and ingrained inlaid cutting boards, that like childlike curiosity about them, still lives in me. And so now that I started cutting it close to teach people how to run their CNC, and then started CIC Workshop to supply people with bits and materials to work on their CNC, and if you haven't checked it out, check it out. I made it my mission to try to bring ingrained inlaid cutting boards to the market, to the mass market, so you don't have to buy all that equipment I had to buy. You don't have to buy the drum sander. You don't have to actually really buy anything except a CNC. And so that was the problem that I faced. Is like, how do I do this? And this problem started over a year ago trying to figure out this conundrum. How to typically make an ingrained cutting board is you glue up a panel of wood, right? You take your, right here, this pipe clamp right here, right? And you cut all your boards, you have to plane them and join them, and then you glue this up, right? And that is a long grain cutting board. And then after you plane it down, you then cut it again and flip these pieces. And so once you flip the pieces, the grain is facing you like this, and hence the end of the grain. And so to make an ingrained cutting board in a garage, you then have to make a normal cutting board. It's typically a little bit bigger than the ingrained one you want to make. You plane it down, you have to cut out the snipe or somehow flatten it so perfectly that you can then cut these, flip these, and glue these together. And then once it's glued up in ingrained form, oh my gosh, they're gonna be so mad at me. So once it's glued up in ingrained form, you really hope it's flat and doesn't look like this, and then you have to get all that down. And so you make different sleds or different jigs, or some people put it through their planer, which I do not suggest because it can blow up and explode. Some people do it. I highly caution against that, but then again, you still have to have a planer. Or like I did, I bought a drum sander, and I had to buy that 16, 32 inch jet, open-ended drum sander, then I graduated up and stuff like that. So that's the process, right? And then you finally have an ingrained cutting board, okay? And then to make the inlay piece, it's that exact same process, but you have to do it really thin. And then you have to worry about that thin thing popping and bowing and doing all that. And so just to make an ingrained inlay cutting board, you have 4 glue ups. Regular piece, then you cut it, flip it, glue it up in an ingrain, and then you make your inlay template, right? Cut it, glue it, make it an ingrain. So there's 4 processes there. And so you would think with all of this industrial equipment, you'd be able to speed it up. But that's not the case. So I spent 6 months trying to figure out how to get this process quicker and how to be able to do it, because if it's the same process as you in your garage making it, I can't compete, right? And you're better off making it in your garage buying the equipment. And so the problem was, how do I create this to the mass markets at a good price and a very high quality product that you can make a high quality inlaid cutting board? Because typically inlaid cutting boards are extremely high quality, right? They sell for a lot of money. And so I had to make sure the product that I was sending out to the mass markets was not some cheap piece of crap. Over the last year, I tried so many different methods to make these, right? I would take the panel, I would glue it up, make the ingrain piece, and do it the traditional way of board by board like this. And then I'd take this through my wide belt sander, which is equivalent to a drum sander. It's just a lot faster, a lot more expensive. And then I'd cut the pieces and glue them up. Over 6 months, and like, it sounds crazy, but like, it was like, what if the wood's a little bit cheaper? Or what if my machine's faster? Or what if we did it this way or that way? but it was all still that traditional method. So whenever you cut them up like this and you make all these panels and then you flip it and make an in-grain cutting board, the problem is maybe it's not perfectly flat, right? And maybe you have to take so much off on the wide belt sander, and now I can't train people to be able to mass produce these, or the edges aren't the same, and so maybe there's a knot and we flipped it and we have to fill the knot. And so the quality control on mass producing these, once again, in grain, was hard, because we glue up these panels all day in our shop, and we can do long grain all day, but once you start flipping these and make them in grain, it's still the same process if you were in your garage. And so after messing up probably 50, 60 different in-grain cutting boards, trying to figure it out, trying to train people on it, going through all this trial and error, nothing worked, right? And we even have this industrial glue clamp, right? Like, nothing worked. And so as I was sitting there one day, literally like this, right? Sitting back here, I was on my phone and I watched somebody make candy. And it's the candy that has like the faces and the stuff. They take the big log and they roll it out and they cut it with a knife really fast and it has these little pieces of candy there. It hit me and I was like, what if I do that for cutting boards? Like, what if instead of making one at a time, what if I made like 20 at a time? And so that thought bubble got me on a different tangent. And so what we decided to do, and this was like this huge epiphany moment, thank God for candy, I was like, well, I'm gonna take these panels then, and I'm gonna start stacking them on top of each other, just like that piece of candy. And so now, imagine this being the cutting board log, once again, giant piece of candy, and I cut it up, and then you have in-grain cutting boards. And so that's what I started to try to decide to do. And so now we can keep it quality controlled because we can see the panels, but now we can make sure they're flipped and alternated so it's a really high quality product. And so we started gluing up panels like this piece of maple right here. And then, you know, we had to make sure they're really flat and do all this crazy stuff. And then we had to glue up the block. And so that was the epiphany moment. Now there's other problems with that. Like, now that we're gluing up this giant block, one, how the heck do we glue it up? AKA lots of clamps. And then how do we make sure the panels are good? What thickness do we do? What size do we do? And all that. And so what we've finally done, we have these giant pieces of wood. And I'm gonna go get a scale and weigh these real quick because they are heavy. But we decided to make giant blocks of wood just like that piece of candy. And we're gonna cut it up. There's one issue. How do you cut it? So let me show you the glue process real quick. Then I'll talk about how I'm gonna cut that. So this is the gluing process, and this is gonna be for one of our walnut insert pieces. I think the male, I don't know what people call it. I just call it an insert piece. So that's how many clamps you have to do just to glue it. And I have not figured out an industrialized way, but here's the key factor whenever I'm making this. And this is so crucial. If you're a numbers guy, if you come from an engineering background or a military background, you're gonna absolutely love this. How I've done this, and think about the math here, to make one Inlay in-grain cutting board, it's gonna take 4 glue ups, right? 2 for the regular cutting board, and then 2 for the inlay piece, okay? This block, however, this is so cool. This is like amazing. This block, however, oh my gosh, okay. So you have 1 glue up for this piece, and then depending on how many layers you have, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 glue ups, 11 glue ups. And we should be able to get around 10 or 12 cutting boards out of this. So now it's only 1 glue up per cutting board, where otherwise it would be 2 if you did it the traditional way. So that's how I started saving time. I don't save any wood, but I started saving time. 138 pounds for each block. And so now we have these giant blocks like this. And so if you come from woodworking background, you're like, well, a bandsaw, right? Just a regular bandsaw in the shop. Well, you pick that up and you put that through a bandsaw and train people how to do it and do it in a very economical fashion, it's not gonna happen. So then you say, well, a resaw, you know, one of the bandsaws that's sideways, right? The problem is, I don't know if they go that high, and they're really, really expensive. And so how do we cut this? And then it hit me. Let's take it to a sawmill. All right, so we just got to the sawmill. Time to get all of this stuff unloaded. We have this custom built sled. We will see if it works. We're with Sarath and Carlisle. Y'all are gonna see them a lot in the video, and this is gonna be awesome. There you go.
14-foot saw blade, turning at 5,000 RPM with a 7/8 spacing on the teeth. Each tooth goes through the wood at a rate of 3 times per second. So it's cutting.
God. So what we're cutting right now is the thick cutting board part, the base of the cutting board inlay. And so this saw's coming through here and cutting maple, hard maple, and we're cutting it a little over 1 3/4 thick. It ends up looking like this, has all these ridges. So after that, we have to take it back to the shop and sand off those ridges. But that's what it's cutting through right now, all 5 of these blocks. It's awesome. So each of these cutting boards right here, since that block is 138 pounds and it roughly cuts out 12 per block, these things are like 10, 12 pounds a pop. And they are like, I mean, like just, I don't want to hurt it, but I mean, they are solid. You ain't breaking them. It's cool, man. It's just, I don't even have any like YouTube sayings. Like this stuff is just cool. If you're getting value from this video, you're liking what you're seeing, you're liking all the struggle we're going through, don't forget to like and subscribe, and please leave a comment in the comment section below if you want me to make more videos like this, because this is cool. It's not CNC, but it's awesome. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks, guys. So now we got our walnut blocks on here, and what we're doing now is cutting the thinner inlay blank. So each of these walnut blocks, if you know walnut, they're very, very expensive, so we hope nothing goes wrong. But same concept, sawmill coming by, and they're cutting thinner pieces. So what those thinner pieces look like is over here, it's just beautiful, right? And we made sure we staggered the wood. And so you have your maple base, and then your thinner inlay, insert, plug, whatever you want to call it. This is what you do all the art on, and you stick it in there. And these have to be thick enough to be stable to hold down to your CNC. And believe it or not, what's crazy, this actually costs more cost in materials than this. So this is technically a little bit cheaper materials than this piece right here. So there's just a ton of factors going into making all of this and getting it cut on the sawmill. But it's super sick, man. It's awesome. So right now we only have the maple cutting board with that walnut inlay template, and it's gonna be 12 by 18. But if you want different sizes or thicknesses or different colors, let me know in the comments what you would like, whether it's a walnut baseboard with a maple inlay, or a Bow Dark, which is yellow, Paduke, which is red. Let me know in the comments what else you like, and we're gonna work on that for you. But right now, all we have is this maple and walnut because we wanna get it in your hands, get you working with it, and get you creating art with your CNC. Let's go. And for those of you who are watching, this is Sarath. He has the sawmill. It's gonna be Tejas Timber Company, and I'm gonna put the link in the description of this video, so he would love for y'all guys to follow. If you're in Texas, you're local, definitely give him a ring, give him a holler. He has treated us royally. He's a fellow Aggie, so if any of our Aggies out there, gig him. And
Class of 96.
Class of 2019, he's class of 96. He's slightly older than me, wiser, all of that. But yeah, he said he didn't want to be on here too long, but I just have to give him a shout out. So go like his Facebook page, Tejas Timber Company. I'll leave a link in the description. And he's been really kind to us, and he's the reason that I'm bringing all these inlay cutting boards to market. So hope y'all like them. Thanks, Sarath, and gig them. There we go. And then.
And it's Sarah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's all right.
It's Sarath. It's Sarath, not Sarath. It's Sarath. All right, all the wood has been cut, loaded up, all the beer has been drank. Now it's time to drive, not me, but somebody else, drive back home and get this stuff sanded down. So the next thing we have to do once we get these boards from the sawmill, if you notice, there's these little saw blade marks on here. So now we gotta stick these in the wide belt sander and get them down. Now in the video, I'm only gonna show you a couple, but just know we have to do it to all of those boards that fill up the bed of my truck. So the first thing we gotta do is get the wide belt sander ready. And what we wanna do is we're gonna activate all 3 heads. And so we're gonna have a rougher grit, and then it's gonna go to a finer grit, and it's actually gonna come sanded to you at 180 grit. So it's gonna be nice and smooth and ready for you to either just use and or make something with. So time to just send all of these through. And we'll just send them on through, and what this is gonna do is little by little, it's gonna take off those blade marks from the sawmill, and these are gonna come out just baby smooth on the other side. And so, once again, it's hitting that 180 grit at the very, very end, and these things are coming out just oh so smooth. And so what they'll end up looking like is right here, where you can still see a little bit of those blade marks. We're gonna keep sanding till we get all that out, and it's gonna be a nice finished product. So the next thing we have to do once these are all sanded down is we gotta run this on the edge sander. And we're gonna end up cleaning up all these edges. I'm not gonna do it right now because our dust collector's down, but that's the next thing we'll do. And what we're gonna end up doing, we're gonna edge sand them down until we have nice, smooth, square edges. And this cutting board is gonna end up being 12 inches by 18 inches, and it's gonna end up being around 1.7 inches thick, and so it's just beautiful. And we're gonna do the same thing to the walnut, and whenever the walnut comes out, it's gonna look like this, right here. And so notice, once again, that staggered wood. It's staggered, so it's the best structurally, it's nice and thick, and so it doesn't warp much, and you're gonna end up with 2 beautiful pieces like this, just so you can inlay a cutting board. That's it. So you have this male insert piece, and then the baseboard that inlay piece is gonna go into. Now, that's just one set. We have to do it to all of these boards right here. Every single one of these has to get done. All of these. And this right here is a dream that has been 15 years in the making for me, with 1 year of trial and error, just to bring this to you to the market. So if you want to support the channel, check out one of these inlay kits. I hope you learned a ton in this video. Wish me luck. And as always, guys, remember, if you ain't cutting it close, you ain't cutting it right.